welcome back to another episode of Money Maketh Man. I'm your host, Oroginije, aka OG, and this is another episode of your favorite show, Don't Touch That Screen. Welcome back to another episode of Money Maketh Man. As we all know, cost of living wants to kill the living. Inflation rates are double digits. Your salary is on view one. So on this episode of Money Maketh Man, I'm sharing with you some tips and tricks to make your salary last a little longer. You know, from one salary earner to another salary earner, I'm doing the Lord's work. So let's get into it. First thing on my list is make a list. Every month, your to-do list for when the salary is coming in, make a list. The bills you need to pay, things you need to save towards, things you want to buy. You know, if you have siblings or your parents are on some type of allowance, make a list. Go to your notes app. Say things to do in September, things to do in July, and write that list. If you need to get, your toiletries or skincare or anything, write that list. Write exactly what you need. Don't just make it ambiguous or vague and just say skincare and then you don't know what exactly you're getting. If you're getting toiletries, write out the things you need: cream, deodorant, this, that, sanitary pad, everything. And if possible, put the amount beside it. Once that salary drops, right? Also writing your savings and investments. You know, it's not all just spending, but your savings and investment. What's going to go into your savings account, your long-term savings account, your short-term savings account, your money market fund, your, piggy vest, whatever you have, write it down. Your shares, write it down and write the amount you're allocating from the salary. Once that salary drops, before you do any other thing, go back to that list and tick it off. So once you've sent money to savings account, tick. You have bought this, tick. You have paid so and so person, tick. You have put money towards your rent, tick. That way you have an idea of what you're doing and you're disciplined and you know where your money is going. Because a lot of times we spend money and we're like, what did I just do? Like, where did this money go to? So that is one thing. Number 2 on my list is apply the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% towards your needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% towards savings and debt. If for some reason the ratio has to shift because, different periods like the beginning of the year or end of year where people are paying rent or, beginning of a new school year for those who are parents, September might be a bit different because, more has to go into some other things, but typically 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and 20% for savings. And obviously, needs and wants are subjective to different people because my needs might not be your needs, my wants might not be your wants, but make it that the 50-30-20 rule applies to you. Number 3, automate your savings. A lot of savings apps, even your bank apps, have automation, so you could create a standing order. All banks have standing orders. You can create a standing order to your salary account and say, on this day, because when the day your salary gets paid, you want XY amount of money to go into this account. So it's a standing order. So even before the money drops, the debit is already taken. That is an easier way to know that, okay, you have no temptation. It's not like, okay, I'll put the money back later, but the money has already gone. So there's no later. So you can just do standing order or automate your savings account. Plan for emergencies. There's always like a fallback fund that it's savings, but it shouldn't be savings that is hard to liquidate because in an emergency situation, you might need to liquidate an asset quickly. So it shouldn't be something that will take more than 24 hours. It should be something that is at reach, quickly. Emergency funds. If you need anything, you should be able to get it. Another thing I would say is for large purchases, especially for assets or anything, always ask for payment plans because a lot of times, instead of doing something, the bulk money might be the stream, but if you break it down into 50% down, 20% across maybe 3 months or 6 months, it's easier strain and stress on you. And don't be too proud to ask if you want to. Let's say you want to buy a plot of land and the plot of land is 1.5 million. But 1.5 million, if you pay it now, is going to be a lot of stress on you. You can ask the seller and say, okay, you know what? I have 750. Can I drop 750 and pay the remaining 750 across the period of 3 months. You have, 50% down payments, and this is this, that. The worst case is that the person will tell you no, but most of the time they don't, because cash flow is really important for those kind of businesses. So don't be afraid to create a payment plan and ask. Another thing I would say is buy in bulk, especially when it comes to toiletries and stocking up the house. Buy in bulk, buying single of everything. It's penny wise, pound foolish, because yes, at that point you're buying is cheaper, because if you buy like one tiny sachet of oil, one sachet of milk, one sachet of Milo, one bottle of cream, one can of deodorant, yeah, it's cheaper, but at the end of the day, those things wouldn't last that long, and then you have to go and buy again. Whereas if you buy in bulk at the beginning, let's say you buy your soap and you buy like the pack instead of one bar, you buy the pack. It's cheaper and it lasts longer. You're not thinking of buying soap for the next, 1 month or 2 months, depending on the size of soap you're using or the brand of soap you're using. So like that's just off your list. Same way buying rice, instead of buying 2 kg bag of rice that might last you, depending on how often you eat rice, maybe it might last you 3 weeks. I don't know. Depending on how often you eat rice, you could buy 10, 15 kg and like for the next 2-3 months. Again, depends on how often you eat rice. It will last. So buy in bulk. It saves money, it saves time, and it saves impulse buys also. And like I said, if you make a list of everything you need to buy before the salary comes in, okay, these are the things you're buying in bulk. Oh, don't me too. I need this advice. So cut down on eating out. There's rice at home. And I know nowadays cooking at home and eating out kind of seems like the same amount. But when I mean there's rice at home, a plate of 500 chairman chow here, Chicken Republic refill meal there, Bature and the boys here, cactus for brunch with the girlies, what else? Going to Vichy for dinner with your baby. By the time you put everything together, it amounts to something. So I'm not saying don't go out. Obviously, once in a while, you should hang out with your friends, hang out with yourself. Solo dates are also important, but cut it down. Instead of every weekend or every Friday night, make it once a month. And I'm not saying that once a month you're not gonna eat the money of the whole month or no, but like once a month you could plan towards it. Another thing is cancel unused subscriptions. So a lot of things we just pay because that's what it's like routine, but you're not really using it. For instance, you're paying for a full bouquet on your television, whereas you watch maybe 3 channels and one of it is a sports channel. Is there really a need to be paying full bouquet? You are paying subscription for all the streaming platforms, but you only really watch one that much. Like you're paying for Netflix, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, YouTube. You're paying for, I don't know, Circuit TV, all 6 or 5. But you only really watch Netflix, and maybe when something comes on Amazon Prime and you really want to watch it, you go to Prime maybe once in 2 months. This is an example. So for the subscriptions that you don't always use, take it out of your payments. Using transport alternatives. I know in Lagos especially, it seems like public transport is like a low class thing, or it's not, the best thing. And yes, maybe the system doesn't encourage people to use public transport, but public transport is the way in a lot of major cities in New York, London. How many people really drive? Most people use the train and use the bus. Working class use train, use bus. If you do not have a car, you can look into using public transport. It's cheaper. In a way, it helps you get your steps in and your cardio in, because by the time you walk from one bus stop to the other, you're getting your steps in and the steps count for you, as opposed to using Uber. And especially now that it's a rainy season and there's always going to be a spike in prices, an Uber trip to and fro every day that costs 10,000 naira, for instance, this is just on average, going and coming from work. If you calculate it for 30 days, that's 300,000 naira. Or 20 days, you go to work for 20 days in a month, that's 200,000 naira. Whereas to use public transport is probably a quarter of that amount. And I know, yes, everybody has different reasons for using transport, but if you can use public transport, it will save you a whole lot. Or if your office offers, staff bus or a form of transportation, use that. Or ride share with, you can find a colleague who lives around your area, and you know what, oh please, could I be going with you when you're coming to the office or when you're going back home. And then once in a while, pitching for fuel, because that's the nice thing to do. If your colleague is always dropping you one day, just use, I don't know, 20K and say, let me buy fuel for you, or 10K for it goes a long way. Another thing I would say is use rewards programs. So if you have a rewards program, you can leverage on loyalty points. This is for like flights. If you're a frequent flyer, obviously frequent flyers have points. So you could use that once in a while to, reduce charges, especially if you're somebody whose job allows you travel a lot. Learn to say not this month. So sometimes because we're used to routine and we're like, oh, la vida loca, you live once. Sometimes it gets to our heads and then we end up doing things that, do we really need to do them? So sometimes, again, not to say don't take care of yourself or don't spoil yourself, but sometimes you can skip on, the hair, the nails, not hair, but you could skip on the nails and the lashes. You could skip on the spa. You could skip on those extras that, they make you feel good, but it's actually a strain. So instead of doing it every month, you could do it every other month. What else would I have to say with making your salary last a bit longer? At the end of the day, we all know like what we make, and when the money comes in, and your responsibilities and the things you need to get done, your wants, your needs. You could work towards it and make it last longer. Your salary really doesn't need to be viewed once. And even me speaking to myself, I'm saying this to myself because I'm always honest with you guys here. There's some things I abide by, but there's some things that are like e.g. that eating out. There was a point I had to delete Glovo and Child Deck from my phone because it was just too much temptation. I was just like, you know what? I'd rather not have this on my phone so I don't spend unnecessarily, because there's rice at home, but sometimes you're just like, oh God, I feel like eating something different. I get that. But, being financially responsible, no matter how hard the economy is, no matter the double digits inflation rate, it's still your responsibility and you're still supposed to make it work for you. And I hope you have learned something today. And I hope, by the time your next salary or the next payday is rolling in, you implement some of these tips and tricks I've shown you. And one other thing I like to say is that this is the 12th episode of Money Maketh Man. And I just like to thank everybody for the loyal viewers, for the new viewers, for the people who come back and, give me feedback. Thank you so much for sticking with Money Maketh Man thus far. Till the next time you see my face, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and have a great day. Bye.